Here comes Chris. And Marcia, good, good, good. Good morning, Marcia. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning.
They're hooking us up to the live stream, so we'll be just a second here.
All right. It works.
Yep, there you are. And are you a veteran, Chris? We're going through the roll call.
No, ma'am. Sorry to say.
Marcia, you, brothers, sisters, husband?
My was a West Point grad, is an Army Ranger, is a Green Beret.
Woo!
And I'm very proud of him.
Would you say
But he's not in the military.
Brother-in-law? What, you cut in and out?
Son-in-law.
Son-in-law. Oh, wow.
Son-in-law.
Wow, 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 wow. Good for you. Good for
Okay,
him.
Julie, we're
Okay.
ready to go.
All right, welcome everybody. I'd like to thank you for joining the Public Works Committee for Wednesday, November 11th. Happy Veterans Day. And again, a shout out to all the veterans and what they've done for us near and far. I will turn it over to Julie Stacy, who will call the roll and read the statement, and then we'll get going. And I don't anticipate this will take too long this morning. Thank you once again for your attendance.
Julie.
Oh, I am
Jim
Julie Kane, Leawood City Council person.
Julie, Jim Rawlings here. I've lost video. I'm going to log off and reboot. So I'm here, but I'm going to start over.
All right, thank you, Jim.
Andrew Osman. I am going to be driving, so I will be listening.
Thank you, Andrew.
This is Julie Stacy. To reduce the likelihood of the spread of COVID-19, the meeting of the Leawood Public Works Committee is being conducted remotely using the Zoom media format, and some of the members of the board may appear remotely. Public comments will not be accepted during this meeting. City Hall is closed to public access during this meeting. However, the meeting will be live streamed on YouTube, and the public can access the live stream by going to the link posted on the city's website at www.leawood.org. All votes will be by roll call of the committee members. Okay, and roll call for attendance. Andrew Osman.
Here.
Julie Kane.
Here.
Jim Rawlings. Chuck Sitwell.
Here.
Marcia Monica.
Here.
Ken Conrad.
Here.
Christopher White.
Here.
Abbas Hedri.
Here.
Lori Ames.
Here.
Jim Rawlings. Todd Harris. He had said he would not be able to attend. Staff members read David Lay.
Here.
Brian Scoville.
Here.
Julie Stacy. Here. Shelley Rexroad.
Here.
Carrie Kennesar.
Here.
And a call again for Jim Rawlings, who was going to reconnect. Not yet. End of roll call.
Julie, if I may interject at this time and just make one staff announcement.
Thank you.
I'd like to introduce a new staff member, Carrie Knatzar. And Carrie is will be acting as a supervisor over our engineering section in Public Works. And he comes to us from Kansas City, Missouri. So let's see. Yes, so this is Kerry. Everyone meet Kerry.
Good morning. Glad to be here.
So he'll be joining us at these meetings in the future. So I just wanted to introduce him. And
Welcome, Kerry.
Yeah, welcome, welcome. We hate to pick off other neighboring cities and stuff, but we appreciate your joining us. As Julie said, City Hall is still closed to the public, although obviously you can see the departments are up and running and business has definitely not stopped. But fortunately at City Hall anyway, we've had very, very limited issues up there, and we'd like to keep it that way. So thank you for all of coming in by Zoom, and we did have 5 attachments, especially the previous minutes that were 14 pages. Yeah. So that is our first piece of business, is to the approval of the previous meeting minutes of July 29th, 2020. Have you all had a chance to read, and are there any changes or additions, deletions? With that, may I have a motion and a second, please?
I move we approve the minutes.
Thank you, Marcia.
It's Marcia.
Marcia.
And may I have a second?
This is Chris. I'll second it.
Thank you, Chris.
I'll take roll for the minute approval of July 29th, 2020. Andrew Osmond. Julie Kane.
Aye.
Jim Rawlings. Chuck Sipple.
Aye.
Marcia Monica.
Aye.
Ken Conrad.
Aye.
Christopher White.
Aye.
Abbas Derry.
Aye.
Lori Ames.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Secondly, we have new business request from Public Works on the design consult selection process for the 2022 Mission Road project, which is 127th to 133rd, and the Lee Boulevard project, which is Somerset to 83rd Street. We have a information packet, and we have a design engineering selection form were sent to us, and I will hand it over to staff.
Thank you, Julie. So as you mentioned, we requested this meeting for consultant selection for 2 projects that are coming up. The construction on those projects will occur in 2022, but we need to get started with the engineering work on those projects. And so we'll give a brief introduction of each project. Want to switch pages? Okay, so the larger of the 2 projects is the Mission Road from 127th to 133rd. It's a $2.3 million estimated construction cost, and it includes the following. We will be undergrounding the utilities. It's a metal pipe replacement. We are going to do a storm sewer extension from close to in front of this Mission Trail. And then we're going to take a storm sewer pipe and go east into Gesser Park for several hundred feet. That was approved by the Stormwater Committee last year and included with this project. So that will collect water that's flowing north out of Gesser and into the residential areas. They have some drainage issues. We're replacing the sidewalks between 132nd and 133rd Street. They're currently 4 to 5 feet in width, and so we're going to remove those sidewalks and put 8-foot sidewalks on both sides of the street. That's in front of Mission Trail, so we have a lot of pedestrian activity in that area. There's some possible minor widening at the intersections, and that's when I say minor, it's only going to be 3 feet wide for maybe 100 feet. It's going to be tapered that entire length. The intent of that would be to create left turn lanes so we can continue the bike lanes through those areas, but there wouldn't be much storage. So we're trying to minimize the widening as much as possible. we would replace the high pressure sodium street lights with LED street light fixtures. It's a mill and overlay, and then once we're completed, like I stated, we will install the bike lanes. And then in addition to all that, we are looking for a consultant to review the 127th Street, oops, go back, 127th Street and Mission Road intersection. That was referred to this committee a couple of years ago to do a traffic study, and we were delayed a little bit on the Mission Road 119th to 127th Street project, and so now that that's completed, of course we have COVID, so traffic is all impacted, so there's not as much traffic out there. So we're hoping once traffic returns to normal, which we are anticipating late 2021, that we would have that study completed, but it would be included with this engineering project. So they need to look at that intersection to see if, what could be done, if it's traffic signals are warranted or any other safety improvements. So we can, if there's not any questions on that project, we can go to the next one.
I have two questions.
Okay.
One question is, do you know how long this project is projected to take?
We are going to do this project more in line with how we've done past projects, with not how we did Mission Road 119th to 127th. So we are going to hire the consultant in early 2021, and we anticipate having Casey or Evergy begin their relocations of the undergrounding of their power lines in the fall of 2021. And so that will take probably four to 6 months. It's going to take a while for Evergy to do that work. It should be able to maintain two-way traffic. We don't anticipate them having to close the road down while they're undergrounding their power lines. There'll also be Spectrum and AT&T will need to do undergrounding of their power lines. So then we would like to begin construction in March of 2022 on the roadway, start beginning on the north end at 127th Street. So we're not going to impact the school or be in front of the school until summertime. But we would, it's probably about a 6-month construction project for Mission Road, at least.
So there's 3 entrances into the subdivision, Waterford subdivision. And also there's one in Cherry Creek and one in Wilshire. So I guess I'm looking at Waterford because three of our inter exits are on Mission Road. So how is that going to affect residents getting in and out of the subdivision?
For the most part, we should be able to maintain 2 entrances at all times. The only time we would need to close the entrance is if there's a storm sewer pipe crossing the intersection. So at 129th and Mission, there's a storm sewer pipe that has to be replaced. The contractor will shut the intersection down probably for at least a week to get that pipe across the street and then patch the street back up. 132nd Street has a metal pipe crossing that intersection. So once they have 129th Street completed, they'll continue south and then close that intersection for a week or so. And like I said, we don't want to do any of that work at 132nd Street. Between 132nd and 133rd, we don't want to be doing any work during the school. We want all that work to occur during the summertime.
Okay, then I have one other question, because the residents in my area have been involved in the projected project on, it's between Briar and State Line, basically off 133rd. It's like, anyway, it's a huge project with 600 and some apartments and 48 single family homes and businesses and retail. And I guess my question is, are they going to take into consideration when they're designing the 133rd Street intersection for the additional cars and whatever that are going to be on that intersection?
That intersection of 133rd Mission is actually part of the Mission Road 133rd to 143rd Street project. So that engineer is looking at the traffic counts and how that intersection is configured for future traffic. They are taking, so when that consultant, which is Burns and McDonnell, they're designing their intersections for full build out in the city. And constructing the roadway to those improvements.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we'll move
And
on.
Marcia, to your point, it's top of your mind because this is your backyard and in our mine too, and several of us on here. So believe me, it's very top of mind. What may be coming and when it's coming, and making sure we're, you know, we're keeping that top of mind. Thank you.
And then probably during construction, we may do one lane while they're doing the storm sewer. What do you think?
I would say we'll have to evaluate it during the design and come up with a traffic phasing plan that might require one lane closure and one lane of traffic. We'll have to look at that to see if we can get away with flagging, or if it will need to be a kind of more like a long-term, moving operation.
Since we're replacing the metal pipe and it's parallel with the roadway, the contractor's going to need quite a large staging area to get their equipment adjacent to the trench while they're excavating out the existing pipe. And then, so that may narrow the roadway down enough to where we can only do southbound Mission. And the reason why we'd select southbound is because of the fire station at 127th and Mission. We would always want to allow that southbound movement so the emergency vehicles can get to where they need to go. So, okay, next project.
Oh, look, this is Ken. I've just got two quick scope questions on this project. One is, did you mention bike traffic study? That seems to be a real big issue on a lot of these that we've discussed recently. Is there something in the scope of this project about the incorporation of handling bike lanes, traffic, whatever? Is that a part of this project scope for this consultant?
We would have a consultant, we'd anticipate a 5-foot wide bike lane striped from 127th to 133rd. We have a bike lane north of 127th Street, and then the Mission Road project south of 133rd Street has a bike lane. So this would be the connecting. This would be constructed at the same time as the south bike lane would be constructed, but then it would just make it a continuous bike lane along Mission Road. But we would have them look at intersections if we could not continue the bike lanes through an intersection to verify where that bike lane would need to stop, and signage and things like that.
So then it won't be in their scope of work. They will take recommendations from somebody else.
That's correct. We have in the bike and pedestrian
Leawood bicycle.
the bike study that was completed several years ago. It has
Self-propelled Leawood.
Yeah, self-propelled Leawood. Thank you, Brian. It has the recommendations for pedestrian and cyclists on several corridors within Leawood, including Mission Road. So they would be reviewing that information to make sure what's recommended, that we're trying to implement those on this project.
So the design implementation, whether or not it's a 5-foot bike lane or a 6-foot, I just know that this has been something that's been a lot of discussion before. And I guess my question, and we don't need to answer it now, is that a design issue that should be a part of the consultant's responsibility, as opposed to being reactive to just, well, we need a bike lane? I don't know enough about designing roadways. If we can just make a note that, and I don't know how anybody else feels on this, but we've always discussed about how do we handle bike traffic and where is it, and it's been looked at by a committee which has got good ideas and everything, but when you actually design a roadway and figure out how to do it, and it's something I know nothing about, that's why I'm asking, I mean, is it appropriate to have that as a is there a scope of work that should be included in the consultant's scope of work? Is there an item that should be included? That's just my question. We don't.
Yeah, we can, that's a good question. When we get towards the end of this presentation, we do have the RFQ ranking sheet. And so we can discuss it and add that into the ranking sheet somewhere one of those categories, but we can discuss that once we get down towards the end of the presentation.
Okay. My second one real quick is you mentioned that this is going to include the underground construction of utilities, especially electrical, Evergy.
That's correct.
I know on Mission Road, north of 95th Street, there was some disappointment in how that turned out as far as, the location of some pretty darn big boxes. Taking away from that project, is there anything that we want to consider, or are we at the total whim of Evergy of how they install this underground utility system?
Yes, we worked with Evergy quite a bit on the Mission Road, on both Mission Road projects where we undergrounded the power lines. And,
right.
And although you may feel it doesn't appear that way, but yeah, there are strict requirements from Evergy on the locations of these structures. We do have a little bit of flexibility. And so we will work with them as far as placement. Clearly, we are not going to place them within site triangles. And that was somewhat of an issue on the Mission Road north of 95th Street.
Correct.
And so, the other thing is Evergy, we can work with the HOAs to see if we can get easements, because more likely it'll be on the west side, and a lot of that is the Cherry Creek HOA.
Okay.
So we would work with them, and
that's fine.
with the HOA.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Okay, 83rd Street, Lee Boulevard, sorry. This is Lee Boulevard Phase 3 from Somerset to 83rd. Estimated construction cost for this project is $800,000. The project is similar to what we've done south of 95th Street. We will be widening the street by 2 feet so we can get the 4-foot bike lanes in. It's going to be reshaping of the roadside ditches, installation of a ribbon curb. It's about 9 inches wide and it's flush with the street. We will replace the LED streetlight fixtures, or replace the HPS streetlight fixtures with LEDs. And mill and overlay to include the bike lanes. And then we also want to include on this one a traffic study for the area near Somerset where there's commercial and office. We have on-street parking near Somerset, and there's some sight distance issues. So we want to have Thank you. So we would like to have a traffic engineer review that corridor. We have the speed limit posted in that area is 25 miles an hour. 35th or the 85th percentile is closer to 35. And so we would like that area studied also. And then in addition to that, we want to complete a speed study of the section of Lee Boulevard south of 95th Street to see if the 35 miles an hour on Lee Boulevard is appropriate, and get their recommendation for a speed limit on the remainder of Lee. So are there any questions on that project?
David, Chuck Sipple here. Are you going to take a look at the sidewalk on the west side of Lee Boulevard?
Thank you for bringing that up. Yes, the sidewalk, at least near the Somerset shops, it's not continuous, and so we would include it with this project to do a sidewalk connection to make sure it goes all the way up to Somerset.
Right. Okay. And there are some tree root problems on some of the sections of that sidewalk. I don't know if you're going to make those repairs as well.
Typically, we look at that as budget allows. We would include the sidewalks.
So when you do this, I would imagine for safety reasons for the fire department mainly, you're going to probably, if you're going to close the street down from time to time, you'll leave the northbound lanes open, and the southbound lane, whichever side it's on, would be the one that's closed.
We would, on this project, we would work with the fire department to see how critical this section of Lee is for their access. I don't know how often they're using this section, but it may be that we have to close it. What are we doing on the next one? Page 2.
Wait on, come here.
We're closing it on. So that's something we would work with the fire department on.
Okay, and the same thing probably on the Mission Road project, primarily southbound would be open, and then they would detour the northbound.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if there are no more questions, we can go to the next slide. So staff came up with 2 options that we would like a recommendation on for the selection of the consultant. We could have each firm provide a separate submittal for Mission Road and then one for Lee, and then have the Public Works Committee rank each firm for each project. We would just select the highest ranked firm for each project. So you could end up with the same firm doing both projects. The other option would be we just have the consultants submit for Mission Road, as they're somewhat similar as far as the work that's involved, and we need the traffic engineer. So we could do just a submittal for Mission Road, the committee rank all the firms, and then the highest ranked firm would be selected for Mission Road. The second highest ranked firm would be selected for the Lee Boulevard project. That would save, when these firms are going through and creating these presentations, it's several $1,000s for them. So that, it's quite a bit of a cost to do both the projects. And then if we did happen to just require them to do the one project, there's a 40% chance they would get selected for one of the projects. So we could open it up for discussion on that.
And David, can you remind us, we've done it both ways, kind of lately, how we've been proceeding.
Yeah, lately we've seemed to have 2 projects come up at once. And we have done this, I believe, twice in the most recently.
Option 2.
With the option 2, thank you, Brian. Yeah, clearing that up. So with option 2, we've done that a couple times over the last 4 years.
And is that proving to be beneficial for, like you said, not only does it save them perhaps money and time, but has that proven to be beneficial for the city or beneficial for the projects, choosing that option?
Yes, we've not had any problems with it, and I believe consultants are happy because, like I said, it does take quite a while to put a proposal together, and it gives them more opportunity to be selected for a project.
Spreads the money out. This is Brian Scoville. It spreads the money out a little bit. If we select the highest ranked for Mission Road and the second highest for Lee Boulevard, I can tell you consultants often comment when the same consultant gets selected over and over and over. So, that's just one factor.
And it's
so I'm like, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Marcia.
Well, I pulled up this design engineering selection Mission Road which is one of the items that Julie sent. And I have to tell you, I don't understand it because it says there are 6 firms with a score of 6 being the best and least as 1, but I don't understand how you fill this form out.
Well,
if you have 6 different companies, do you fill this form out for each company?
And that's coming up on the next slide to review the RFQ. But yeah, in short, it would actually be, since we are proposing 5 firms, so instead of the 1 to 6, it would be 1 to 5. But we can discuss that on the next slide.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
I don't believe we're seeing the slides that you're seeing. We're just seeing, we're still back to the agenda, or that's what
Okay.
I'm not seeing them either.
Yeah, we're on
Well,
the
no, they
agenda.
were attached. They were the ones that
Okay.
Julie attached in the board packet.
Yeah,
Right, so
understood, but he keeps referring to seconds.
Yeah.
Few
there's another
slides
one
and
on the screen.
let me reshare the screen and I will,
Sorry about that.
we're still figuring this stuff out, guys.
Yeah, we
Sorry
had a
about that.
presentation we were showing. That's okay. So we had.
Okay, let me start over.
there we
Dave,
go. There
Okay,
we
we're gonna go
go.
back
Okay,
to slide
good.
one. I'll start
Okay.
reading them from them again.
Yeah, that's better.
Dave.
There you go.
Sorry, I should have
Okay.
said
Sorry about
something.
that.
I should have said something earlier. Sorry.
Thank you, though.
All
Sure.
right, so we showed the projects with bullet points and I'll just zip through these. So this was Mission Road. Dave talked about each bullet point there. This was Lee Boulevard again. We talked about each bullet point. We had a little map that showed the limits from 83rd to Somerset. And then this is the slide we're on now, where we talked about option 1 and option 2. And then we have a few more comments there at the bottom.
Thank Abbas.
Thomas?
Yeah, I would just say firms are all comparable. You know, from what we've seen in the past, Burns and Mac probably has more of them than others, but I wouldn't hesitate with any one of them. So, you know, the option of going for seems plausible.
This is Ken. I'm certainly sympathetic to the cost of putting together a proposal, but having been in that business, that's part of your business. I think the projects, if you just look at them very objectively, are significantly different. Certainly the Lee Boulevard is, you know, somewhat of a unique roadway through its length. And the one that's farther south is a lot more technical, I think, in probably traffic and the bikes and 135th Street. And I think there could be some very different qualities. And at least they are going to have to put together a approach to their work for each of these projects. And that's going to be the bulk of their effort, I believe. You know, when we've looked at these proposals before or submittals that people have sent in, we've always talked about how boilerplate they are. So I'm certainly sensitive to how much they have to spend. I guess I'm more sensitive to the impact it puts on the city. Is there really an advantage to have one firm do these two projects? So I'd be for you submit on each project individually, and you know, that's what it is. Are these both, from a timing standpoint, will they overlap?
Yes, they would. The design would be completed in 2021 and both of them would, the construction of the roadway would begin in March on both of them.
So do we believe that that could be a negative for maybe a smaller firm from a people power perspective, when in fact they could still have excellent qualifications to do the project as a standalone?
Well, you might get, you'd probably get different project managers for each project by the consultant. So I don't believe they'd have the same team, maybe the same traffic engineering.
But maybe it's not a big enough firm to have two teams.
Ken, I don't think you can look closer at what they're talking about. They're talking about doing one bid, and then the one team would be selected for the Mission Road project, but then the runner-up, the second team, would be chosen for Lee Boulevard. One team's not going to be chosen for both projects. They're not consolidating. So if they have a team large enough to handle the Mission Road project, they certainly have enough manpower to do the Lee Boulevard project.
But
it won't do both.
Although I might add that sometimes, you're doing one project, their attention might get divided. Granted, they might on paper have two teams and large teams, but same industry myself, I've seen, teams stretch.
But so the consultant is going to make a submittal for the Mission Road project only. Is that correct?
If we select option 2, that would be correct.
Okay, so there will be no consultant preparing a section in their proposal of how they are going to approach the Mission Road project.
And to that effect, if I piggyback to what Ken is saying, David, can we have them present for both? And then you give, the Mission Road to one and then the second one to the runner-up, but they've all presented for both projects.
A hybrid between.
That sounds good. That sounds good. But if you're scoring the packet one time, so are you going to score it twice? And if you score it twice, you're effectively doing one. If you're scoring it once and you're giving the second highest score, then you're not scoring based on the Lee Boulevard project. You're scoring on Mission Road. So, it doesn't matter what they submit for Lee Boulevard if you're only going to score it one time and then give the second high to
I guess my suggestion would be is you've got two projects. Each one of them is their own selection process, and if you're a firm that wants to do work, you submit two proposals, one for each of them. Maybe not every firm wants to do both projects, or maybe you've already talked to them and they do. I don't know. I don't know why you would have a submittal for doing a bathroom project at your house and you've also got a kitchen project. So you're going to submit on the bathroom and whoever is second in that is going to do your kitchen.
Well, they're really that much different. And there's quite a bit of traffic on both these projects. So we have the speed issues. We have a traffic signal at Somerset and Lee that needs to be looked at for improvements. We have on-street parking at Somerset and Lee. There's site distance issues with driveways on Somerset and Lee. So that's all traffic engineering.
Okay, all right,
so
that's fine.
That 127. So staff doesn't believe that these projects are that much different. We've done it before where we selected for Lee Boulevard, the first phase, 95th to 103rd Street, and we took the second rated firm received, no, actually, we take that back. We did the residential reconstruction selection, and we took the second ranked firm from that project and had them complete Lee Boulevard. So those two projects were pretty different compared to each other, but staff's opinion, at least on this one, that both projects are fairly similar. It's going to involve utility negotiation or working with utilities because Water One may replace their main along Lee Boulevard. So there'll be a lot of similar type tasks.
And Ken, as we've talked about before, that these are largely qualification packets and they tend to be boilerplate. So really this is coming down to selecting a qualification for doing the work, which we all agree is basically they're all capable of doing it. So we're looking for their kind of ideas and their approach to the project and the larger project with some level of confidence that they would be capable of having a reasonable approach to the secondary project. But I understand there might be a reason to do both, but ultimately the more work we ask for people to do unpaid eventually ends up in the cost of these projects. So, I don't see reason just to exercise them unnecessarily.
Okay.
I have a question because I kind of agree with Ken. I think the approach is very important. And if there's a generic approach, is it really going to be, I think there needs to be some differentiation in the approach, in their write-up of what they're going to do. And maybe they boilerplate everything and then have two different approaches for the two different projects. One submittal, but have two different approaches included in that submittal.
Right. And so, going back, Marcia, I was saying, if they did do two proposals within that same proposal, like we talked about, so A and a B, and they're rated on the overall, and then you give, the Leawood, the 127th Street project to the first guy and Lee Boulevard to the second guy, that would be fair, I think, because they've both presented their project approaches.
And may I ask, when we've done it recently twice, as we talked about, but when can you remind us when we did this twice recently successfully, were they submitting for one project as opposed to the two? I mean, what did we do that worked the last two times?
Let's see. So we did. There was a residential reconstruction where we took the second ranked firm and did Lee Boulevard, as I mentioned.
And then it was Waterford and
then
2020 concrete.
And we've done it in the past. I'm trying to, Julie's looking through the records. The Stormwater Committee has done it a couple of times. They did it with
the Waterford subdivision SMAC project, and then the second ranked firm was assigned to the 2020 CMP replacement project. So GBA
and the stormwater project, or the stormwater committee has done this a couple times also with some selections where we did one was a flood study and we selected the firm for that project. And then the second ranked firm was awarded the metal pipe replacement program design.
So the second firm didn't actually submit on the second project. They just submitted on the first project, I guess is what I'm trying to make the distinction, because I think everybody's making good points. If you're bidding for a kitchen and a bath, like you said, in real simple terms, we're giving the bath to the guys that only submitted for the kitchen, and and has that proven successful in the past? I guess that's where we're kind of stuck right here.
Right, and if we include a section for Lee Boulevard, then we would just have to discuss how we're going to do the ranking sheet. If we're just going to do one ranking sheet still for each project, and if we want to give points for Lee Boulevard, you may have a firm that scores 100 on Lee Boulevard,
right,
but they don't rank high enough, and so they're not going to be selected for either of those projects.
Well, and ultimately, we're not bidding a bathroom and a kitchen. We're bidding two bathrooms, one bigger than the other. I mean, those projects are not that distinct.
Yeah. Personally, I'm fine with them bidding one submittal and then the second one goes to the second project. You're right. They are both kitchens or both baths or however the analogy is working.
But Julie, truth. I have a question.
Rollins.
Would it be for the firms to put both proposals on? For all practical purposes, both proposals will be boilerplate. Even if you add Lee Boulevard to be added on, that'll be boilerplate too. They're not going to go out of their way and put hundreds of hours at this stage. And I think just for the optics of it, it'll be clean. You'll have, even for the like you've looked at both and made a decision.
Looked at both separately.
No, so I'm open, or I'm okay with giving the winner the 127th Street and giving the runner-up the Lee, but I would still like to see them submit both and then rank them accordingly. So at least for the record, we've had everyone submit for both. I don't think it'll take them too much longer to do the Lee Boulevard project if they're already doing the 127th Street and it's almost similar, right? So if I'm doing two bathrooms, one larger than the other, I already have my bathroom details worked out, right? It might just be a matter of tweaking where my bathroom layout's going a little bit, but it's, That's my take on it, and I think it'll be cleaner. And on our scoring sheet, you could have two columns, one for Lee, one for the other one, and they get an overall score. And in case of a tie, then you can see who got a higher rank on Lee and probably hand it over to that person.
How about if we, to kind of move on, because not move on, but we're in discussions of having both these projects or the RFQs kind of merged into one. Let's jump to the ranking sheet so we can see how we're going to
David,
rank them.
I've got a question.
Jim
Can you hear
Raleigh.
me? Am I on?
Yep.
I guess I throw this out to the committee. I mean, we've got two professional engineers here that are leading this meeting as far as a decision. I, for one, am for having one company do both projects based on my experience in city council. But I guess I asked the question to David and to Brian, what is your preference from a city standpoint and professional engineering standpoint?
Staff's opinion of these projects are pretty similar, that we feel all these firms are going to be able to do both projects, and so just our opinion would be to go with number two.
Thank you.
Right. Do you have any thoughts on if one consultant ended up doing both projects?
I would be a little concerned on some of the firms if they were selected highest and they were doing both projects. It might be a little bit smaller firms to where they may not,
to Ken's point,
they may not have the ability to do both projects at once, because there is a lot of working with the utilities on each project, and we definitely don't want to get any of these projects behind schedule because they're critical, especially that Mission Road. We have to get that out on a set time so we're not in front of the school during school times.
Hey, Jim, this is Lori Ames. What in your experience tells you you'd rather have one firm?
Well, I just think, I mean, it's kind of like I've hired subcontractors for the house. Get back to the kitchen and bathroom situation. I mean, I'd want one contractor in to remodel and get it done and go on. And I think when you have, that's why I asked the question of David and Brian. I mean, they're the professionals and they're the ones that are going to have to deal with it. But my experience has been that, one contractor, you deal with them and the projects move forward. That's just an opinion. It's some experience, but I certainly defer my vote to the professionals. And I've always done that, being on city council. When I have to make a vote, I mean, I listen very strongly to the professionals that've got to do the project and get it done and get it done on time.
Jim, I would just add, if these two projects were near each other, or even if they shared an intersection, right, we would definitely be here with trying to select one firm. But these, both these projects are far enough apart that they're really not.
With different funding.
Okay.
There's different funding pockets and everything like that.
If you're comfortable with that, so am I. I was just, that's fine. Like I say, I'm relying on. I think we should all take heed to what the people that have to actually do the work and do the project, what their preference is. So I'm comfortable with that.
This is Chuck. I have a question. Was there any economic savings if we have one do both versus two? Is there any economies for the city in terms of dollar expenditures?
We don't believe there'd be any savings in cost if we had one or two firms.
So can I go back and ask about, if they submit one proposal, is the proposal, like the approach and all that, just going to be about 127? And Lee Boulevard is not really even mentioned. So we really don't know what their approach is. So the proposal would be based on just the Mission Road project. Is that correct?
That is how staff wrote item, or option number 2. And if we want to jump ahead to the ranking sheet, and go through that, we could see.
So we really have no idea what their approach would be on Lee Boulevard. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Trying to get there.
I'm gonna try to load it here.
There we go.
There we go.
Let me stop the share and get to a version that's readable. 1 second. Okay, can everyone
You share it again?
see this?
Get your screen shared.
Let me try that again. Okay.
Can you see it?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, we can.
Can you hear it?
So here's how we rank the Mission Road from 133rd to 143rd Street project. So staff maintained the same question or the same rankings for each item. I think there's 6. And you would score these from 1 to 10 when you go through and read each packet.
So you would put a score of 1 to 10 on each of these numbers.
Well, in this
I
case,
mean,
we
each of these categories.
in this case we
Because
That's
add-
not what it said. That's not what it says up here.
Yeah, we changed. I mean, the draft I had was 6. If
Okay.
there's 6 firms, you'd have 6
Okay.
scores. And, but it's however the committee would like it done.
Yeah, if you want to, so if we had, there's 2 ways. 5 firms, you can rank them 1 to 5 for each one of these items. Or another option that we've done in the past is like each one of these be worth 10 points, and you just come up with, when you read it, you come up with what you believe is the highest score, or how you feel each firm would rate on each item.
And you could even assign more points to project approach. In this case, maybe we make it worth 20 points.
So in here, I think if we tried to add Lee Boulevard, I mean, all these are really, really specific, project understanding. So in my opinion, if we added Lee Boulevard and just did one ranking, might be kind of challenging. I mean, I guess we could always add one for Lee Boulevard project approach.
I think two rankings side by side, and then you put a grand total.
I guess if we do it that way, I'd prefer probably to have 2 separate submittals.
Yeah, I kind of would too. That's where I share the desire to hear their approach or see their approach and understand how they're trying to do it. But I feel like it's kind of just unnecessarily exercising, because the overall scoring is really, I mean, even if we weighted them, we would weight the Mission Road heavier. And so then the Lee Boulevard becomes a secondary score. So if it's really that important, then I think we have to go with 2 separate submittals.
Right. Chris, the other part is, what have we done if we end up with a tie in the past?
Would that be up to the committee to make a recommendation on their prerogative?
Yeah.
Because this, if we split them, then that's a tiebreaker potentially.
Well, maybe we ought to at least agree first on this scoring sheet. So the idea is where we've done like 1 through 10 for each section and we added it up. The proposal is that instead of doing a score for each one where 3 different firms get 10s, and some people score everybody with a 10 and some people score everybody with a 5. This is the proposal, if I understand it, is to rank everybody so that if there's 5 firms, there's a 1 through 5 with some possible ties. And if I understand that right, then the question is do we like this kind of approach? Maybe we figure that out before we figure out the one or both thing.
So So I don't, if we do that rank 1 through 5, I don't get, are we just supposed to read through their submittals and say, oh, I like this one, I like this one? Or do we, I mean, I think this is nice because if you have a sheet where you've ranked each firm individually, at least you have some backup as to why you ranked them 1 through 5. Instead of just sorting them and then saying, well, you're number 5, you're number 4, you're number 3, you're number 2, you're number 1.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
think, isn't that how we did it previously, where we ranked each firm on all of these totally, and then we did a grand, we all sat together and put it on an Excel sheet? I think that process seems to have worked fine. So, this might be a little harder to be, because to do this one sheet, you would have to read all of them separately and then try to make some value judgments on what you think.
This is Julie Stacy. In the past, we've had a firm's name at the top of the sheet. So when you handed them in your votes, if there's 5 firms, each committee member hands in 5 sheets. The company's at the top of each page, and then we calculate everyone's rankings.
Right. And that seems to have worked fine so far, right?
Yes.
Yes, we have, yes.
Yeah, so why not stick to that?
Staff is open to that. We just wanted to present this option. There's been some discussion in the past. Last time we did the ranking sheets, if everyone wanted to try something different or consider how, at least evaluate how we are doing the ranking scores.
This is the situation where everyone says we don't understand why we're doing it this way. We want to try something different. And so you've presented something different, and we're all asking why we aren't doing the way we always have.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
Good. Look it over.
So we'll go back to the score of 1 to 10 for each category. Do you want to
sorry for being fickle.
You're fine. No. Do you want to put an emphasis on project approach? Do we want to make that worth, say, 15 points instead of 10?
I think what happened was,
I think that's the most important one, because they're
Right.
probably all
prior to Mission Road 133rd to 143rd, that's how we had it. But then when we went to rank those, the committee didn't like having different level of points for values of points for each category. So then we went back, and that's why we decided everyone's just going to be 10 points. And that's how we did. So we were doing it differently prior to the previous selection, and then we changed it to 10. So if you want to change it back, that's fine. We can just go through and you can tell us which ones you feel are worth more points than the other items, and we can change that.
Okay.
then keep it the same.
So would it be like this is Julie Stacy, each paragraph, you have six
10.
bullets here, you'd have 10, 20, 60 altogether as your grand total? At the most they could earn, is that what you're saying?
If we do a 1 to 10 score, and then you'd end up with 60, or the other option is which I think might be harder, is you have to go through each one of these and say, okay, I like this firm best on the project understanding, and then so that could be pretty challenging to go through each one of these and rank them 1 to 5. Versus just going through and say, okay, I like that one a lot. That was a great one. It was 10. These other 2 are pretty close. Give them 8. It's up to you guys. You guys are the ones that have to do this. So
That's kind of how I do my scoring anyway, as I generally line up, them all side by side and try to figure out who's a 10 and, and then back off. So I'm neutral on the approach here.
I am too. The 1 through 5 or 6 definitely it forces differentiation,
Right.
which is what you're trying to do anyway. So this just forces it.
I'm fine with that.
So this is Lori Ames. So I'm agnostic about the score sheet. I think the way that we've done it in the past has obviously been successful. This, I think, captures everything. I think though we still haven't solved or come to agreement on the nut of the previous long discussion about bathrooms and kitchens, which is, essentially we're with approach number 2, which I agree. I am respectful of the fact that, David and team, you guys are the experts, you manage the project, and this is what you think is best. So I get that. But I also agree with what Abbas said, which it's a little bit awkward to award, $800,000 project to a firm that hasn't actually submitted an approach for that project. That's just a bit awkward to me. And I get that the Mission and Lee are similar, and they're 2 bathrooms, and they're far apart in different houses and all the things. That just feels a little bit awkward to me. So if there was some way to solve that little bit, I'm fine with approach 2. I'm fine with the score sheet, but I would like to see the firms say something about Lee.
Okay, and I'll just say that was the construction cost. So we anticipate the design cost for Mission Road to be around $300,000, and the design cost for Lee Boulevard at around $100,000. So,
but it's still a valid point. Yeah.
Right, that's still a point, but we're not, the cost I gave you, I just wanted to be clear, those are the construction costs, not the engineering costs.
Fair enough.
So if we want to move forward with maybe a motion on that.
So I'm going to move forward with a motion that we ask them to submit 2 proposals and that we use the ranking system that we've previously used.
I second that.
Who is the second? Lori?
This is Lori Ames.
And the motion was from Marcia Monica. Do we have, okay, roll call for that vote. The motion from Marcia Monica to submit 2 proposals, 1 on each project, and use the ranking that we have in the past.
Do we have any discussion?
This is Ken. I have one question.
Okay.
So this means that one firm could win both projects.
Yes.
Is that a problem?
No.
No.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure. Before with the 2 other ones, we would have ended up, I believe, if I understood it correctly, with 2 different firms.
Now, there's nothing to say that if the same firm scored the highest on both, there's nothing to say the committee could not consider the second highest ranked firm for one project or the other.
Yeah, this is Lori, and I agree with that. I think that's at our discretion, and that's where we would definitely rely on you guys and your expertise, to make a recommendation in that space.
Is that really something we can do? I don't know this. I mean, if it's public, if it's a public project and you have a selection project, can you arbitrarily go to somebody else? I don't know. I just want to make sure that we're not getting in a situation that for whatever reason legally we couldn't do. Lori, I don't know the answer to that.
Well, first of all, we only make a recommendation. We do not make a selection.
Okay.
We're only recommending to the governing board.
I'm good.
Yeah, no, I agree with your points. They're well made. And I actually do like approach number 2. It's just the one adjustment, and I'm not sure the cleanest way to make this is I just want them to submit something that says, this is what we're actually going to do for Lee.
Right. No, thank you, Lori. Because, 2 different bathrooms, maybe 2 different tiles. I don't know. So at least for our own record, for the city's sake, we have something there.
I think when we meet with the firms to discuss these projects, it's obviously going to be the same firms. We can let them know that, the committee, if one person ranks highest on both projects, the committee may select a different consultant for the other projects, just so they're aware of that.
Right. And Dave and I were just talking, we're not aware of anything in the development ordinance or in the city code that would prohibit staff from making a recommendation based on this process that we've discussed today.
What about the contractual side of it? Is if they if they submit a bid basically on both projects and they are selected for both, are they contractually obligated to follow through, or are they able to bow out on one if they, because I don't want to disadvantage the smaller businesses. So sometimes if you submit a bid, you are obligated to fulfill that bid. Is there some provision that's available that if they say, look, we don't have the manpower to do both projects, you know,
Well,
thanks.
Yeah, this is just a recommendation. So we would, once you recommend the firm, if you come to one firm, we would discuss it with the firm prior to going to governing body. So when we went to the governing body, we would,
For the contract.
for the selection, we would let the governing body know that the firm would just prefer to do the one project. That's how we would handle that. It would actually go, this is not a contract. When we go to the governing body, we'll approve your recommendation, and then we work and complete a contract with one or both two firms.
And David, to that point, would it be fair when you meet with them to kind of let them know that this could happen where we might choose two different firms based on this to spread the wealth, particularly in the current time, so that everyone has something?
Yes, and we'll put it, when we send a letter out to the consultants, we'll have it in writing on there also, so they're aware, so they're aware of it up front.
Yeah, I think that's a great way.
And I appreciate that as well, but prior to our selection, I would also like to know, I think this group should know, if somebody prefers to only do Lee Boulevard, that we know that prior to scoring.
And I think if that's the case, they wouldn't go through the trouble of submitting for Mission Road. If they have a preferred project, they would just submit for that project, because you may look at a larger firm, may not believe it's worth the time. I mean, if it's going to cost them $5,000 to do an RFQ and they're only going to get $100,000, maybe if that, on design fees, they may look at that and not submit. They may feel it's too small of a project.
I think that's good. I think if we're going to go this approach with somewhat two different, submittals, then we should give them that option up front, but prior to our voting.
We're going to split up this list. Just do 3 for one and 2 or 3.
Good. We want to split the list up and designate different consultants for. Okay. So do we have a motion and a second?
I have a motion and a second. We have not taken a roll call vote for the motion to submit 2 proposals using the ranking sheets from the past format. Andrew Osmond, Julie Kane.
Aye.
Jim Rawlings.
Aye.
Chuck Sipple.
Aye.
Marcia Monica.
Aye.
Ken Conrad.
Aye.
Christopher White.
Julie, I'm sorry, can you clarify, are we just putting on the scoring sheet right now or the combined motion?
We had a motion from Marcia Monica to submit 2 proposals, and then using the ranking sheet from the past formatting, seconded by Lori Ames.
Okay, nay.
Okay. Abbas Hedry.
Aye.
Lori Ames.
Aye.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or 4, 1 nay. Motion passed.
And then to kind of follow it up, the one thing we didn't discuss, but we would like this, Public Works would like to make this as part of the selection. There's 5 firms. I don't know if you've read through that we were looking at. Just want to make sure that you're okay with those 5, and if there were any others you wanted us to look at. We selected these based on past experiences at the city, and we've had discussions with other cities on who they've had luck with on the engineering firms with good traffic engineering. So I don't know if there's any discussion on that.
But
This is Lori. This is firmly in your wheelhouse, and I have nothing to add to this.
Thank you.
Likewise.
I'm fine with them as well, this Chris.
Okay, the other item that we wanted to talk about is we would like to have the firm that's selected perform the traffic and stormwater, most of the engineering work in-house. And we do not want firms to combine or to, contract a portion of the traffic or stormwater out. It becomes a lot more difficult for staff to work through the issues. And so what we would like to tell each firm is that they were selected to submit an RFQ based on the fact that they can do the traffic and stormwater. And if they decide to consult one of those out, then we may not consider them.
Agreed.
So moved.
Okay. Well, no objections to that. We'll proceed with that. And then the last is, we're just, and this kind of more for your information, we're going to request 5 sheets on each project, and that's front and back. So there'll be a total of 10 sheets to read for each project, for each consultant on each project. So that's how that's about the minimum we feel that's necessary to get the required information.
And we'll deliver the packet.
Yeah, and this one, we will deliver the packet. We can do it by PDF, but these might be easier if we have pre-printed packets for you to read through and go through them. So,
when do you anticipate those being for our review?
We were hoping to get on the January 6th meeting. So we would look at, it usually takes 3 to 4 weeks for a consultant. So it would be probably around mid-December we could deliver these, hopefully before Christmas.
Thank you.
Okay.
David, I had one more question. Chuck Sipple here from the council. You are targeting the work on Mission Road at 133rd to coincide with summer vacation for Mission Trail School. You want to do that work in the summer of 22?
That's correct.
How does that coincide with the work that's going to be going on Mission Road from 133rd to 143rd? Will that be before, after, or about the same time as the work south of 133rd on Mission Road? I want to warn my neighbors here as to what's coming.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of work on Mission Road in 2022. We anticipate in early March of 2022 on this section from 133rd to 143rd that for the first 3 months, the contractor will be installing the storm sewer pipes along that project. So for the most part, that section of Mission will remain open. And then in the summertime of 2022, the contractor on that section will be working in front of Prairie Star Middle School and trying to get that area wrapped up. And so trying to keep the contractors apart. But there will be a little bit of overlap as obviously they share that intersection of 133rd and Mission.
Okay, so you'll do the school work in the summer of 22, both at Prairie Star and Mission Trail. And then the connectors between them will be done after that.
Yes.
Thank you.
So I'd just like to add on to that, David. Is Mission Road going to be open for the subdivisions between 127th and 133rd at all times?
We haven't gotten that far yet on that design. So they're still working through on the layout of the project to see if that's possible. We may carry 1-lane traffic through, but typically what we've done on the arterials is it just goes much quicker just to close it down and let the contractor construct it in phases versus trying to carry traffic through. It really slows their progress down when they have to keep shifting traffic around and maintaining it through the construction. But at this point, we're looking at doing the 1 lane each direction, so a 2-lane traffic. But when we construct it, if we have one of those legs that's far enough offset to where we can maintain the existing road, we would look at trying to carry at least one direction through. Okay, if that's it for questions. Okay. turn that back over to Julie then to.
Thank you for your thoughtful input from everybody. I appreciate it. Appreciate your time on the Zoom this morning. And with that, I guess I need a motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Boss. I guess I need a second.
I will second that. This Chris.
Thank you, Chris. All right, see you. Well, you'll see your packets in December, it sounds like, and we'll meet again this way probably in January. Thank you. Happy holidays to all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.